This video won't end until I get a working quarry in the Create mod. You can see behind me, this is my first ever tutorial on my channel, a kind of quarry-esque thing, but it just flattens out the whole world. Instead, I want to make a legitimate quarry that destroys the entire world that it's in and harvests all the materials, turning it into either the smelted versions of things like copper, zinc, iron, gold, or storing any of the important materials or crushing anything that isn't very useful, like stone, deep slate, anything else that you don't want to keep, to turn it into things that are helpful, like maybe quartz or extra gold or iron. I have wanted to do this for so long, and I think I know enough about the game to finally figure out how to do it. You can see over there that I had a quarry kind of system with some gantry shafts and a rope pulley, but this never got very far. The main issue is item collection and making sure the gantry kind of mining shaft system doesn't get caught. So we are going to start this over here in this little sand desert area, and we have a couple of criteria that I need to complete. The first criteria is to not get stuck with obsidian generation. If we were to like mine down all the way here and there's a lava lake underneath, the water and lava will combine making obsidian, and then our flying machine will be stuck at the bottom. This is going to be a relatively easy fix. All we'll need to do is put drills on the tops of every block so that when we bring it back up, it can mine any obsidian that is generated. The second criteria is really easy. It needs to be fast. The biggest issue with my previous design, way over there from the first ever tutorial, was that it was time-based, so it waited 5 minutes until it brought itself back up. The issue with this is that if it's faster than 5 minutes, you're waiting for 2 or 3 minutes, which is more than half the time, for nothing to happen. And if you don't get all the way to the bottom, that's another issue. I want a way to get all the way to the bottom, and then when we know it hits the bottom, bring it all the way back up. We might have to do this with some redstone contacts, but hopefully we can do this with an observer or something like that. I think that could be a really cool way. The third one is really important. It needs to have a working and successful item collection and storage. Obviously, with a moving contraption, you can just dig blocks and it'll go into an associated vault or something that's glued to it, but the vault will fill up. What do we do then? I don't want it to be able to just mine one like 16 by 16 area and then be done forever. I want it to mine a 16 by 16 area, bring it up, empty out all of its items to a main storage system that doesn't move, and then have it scooch over and do the same thing again, and just keep doing that all the way down the line. We're probably going to do this with some belts and other stuff, and then we'll have the main storage over by the control panel or something like that. The next criteria is really simple. It needs to be easy to understand. This is going to be a kind of tutorial showcase of whatever I create, and if it's not easy to understand, it's going to be really annoying for anyone to try to replicate this or anything else. So this is a must-have. The final, I hope, criteria is that it needs to be infinitely scalable. Obviously, infinite is kind of a strong word, but I would like for it to be scalable past 128 blocks. That is the maximum distance that redstone links can operate from. So it might be difficult to do this. It is very likely that we won't be able to go above 128 blocks away from the main control panel area, but I would really like to be able to do that. So that is the final criteria here. To start, we're just going to set out a platform here over the open air, and we are going to need 3 different degrees of rotation. I guess not rotation, maybe movement's a better definition. And we are just going to start out with a little setup here. For 3 degrees of rotation, we're going to need first a gantry shaft to move this thing sideways, back and forth. And then we're going to need another one connected to this gantry carriage to then move this gantry carriage back and forth this way. So what will happen is if we power this, it will move the entire thing. And that's easy. That is 1 degree of rotation done. The next degree of rotation is with a lever or another power source to power this gantry shaft. Once we've done that, we'll then need to rotate this and move this over. The final degree of rotation, once this comes back, is going to be with a rope pulley going downwards, but we do need to connect this up to this shaft here. The only issue is that we somehow need to power this gantry shaft here, and I think the only way to do that is with a lever. But then, as you can see, we can then go downward. We can upgrade this system a little bit by just putting in a gear shift, That will let us get a little bit more motion here. And then if we return that, that'll move over, but we still need to be able to power this shaft here. And over the next 4 days, I tried my hardest to figure out a way to do this, and I just could not figure it out. And then after day 4, after 18 hours of trying to troubleshoot, build, work on this thing, I thought of a way easier way to do it with sequenced gear shifts. But that wasn't before I went completely insane. So here are just a couple of highlights. If you want to see more of the development process, I have an hour-long video for YouTube members that you can check out on my channel. But enjoy the just complete craziness and meltdown of me trying to explain something that I do not understand. So when this powers off for the second time, this should stay powered for a certain amount of time while this machine moves over this many blocks. And if I connect this, this should go straight the other way. How did that even happen? But even in that voiceover, I thought I figured it out. This is what I've been working on. And again, you can check out the members only video if you wanted to watch all of this. But basically what we're doing here is we're using the sequence gear shifts to kind of check our stuff, time everything, and have everything work. Only issue that I totally forgot about until just now. These are going to be our mining downwards ones and then coming back up after it finishes mining. And as you saw, it was 128 blocks. If though we put in, I don't know, 10 blocks in front of it and we turn this part on, you'll see that it starts mining. That's great. Will it go 128 blocks? You can leave a comment down in the comment section if you think so. No, the answer is no. It moved maybe 10. And that is unfortunately because it spins to move something just long enough so that if it can move uninterrupted, it'll move 128 blocks, which has its benefits and drawbacks. The main drawback being this not working, which means we have to combine the two systems here into this one going up and down, and then the rest sequence gear shifts, moving it over, getting all the way to the end, and then bringing it back and moving it over that way, which is what we've been working on. I have hopefully a semi-working system here. So we have switched out the gantry shaft mechanism with just a rope pulley. I am using kind of a similar system where we have an observer that observes once it gets to the bottom and then once again when it gets to the top, but we're using a little relay system here. So this is sending it to this redstone link, which is then kind of transferring it over, let's see, to this one here, which then sends it back to our main base. And hopefully that'll be enough. If not, we'll need to have kind of a midway stop between here and bedrock area, but we can get to that later. If we turn this thing on, it should go straight down. It's disappeared, but it's still there. I don't know what's going on here. What the heck? Oh, and the drills have appeared into the existence, and it should go over perfect amount. I don't know why it's glitching out this much, but we are exactly on the edge there, which is what we want. So it is working really well at the moment. Again, in the original design, the hard part was getting it back. In our new design, the hard part is not that. I know this is great content while I talk, but I really need to do this or otherwise we're going to go down to bedrock and I'm going to lag out my game. But at a bare minimum, this is working. This is moving over the desired amount, and hopefully it is infinitely scalable down to bedrock with no other issues, unlike our version 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, version 7. Hopefully version 8 will actually work. Now all we need to do is once it gets to the end with this same counter system that we're going to copy over, bring the whole thing back and reset everything. And it honestly works really, really well. Like things that I did not plan, and I'm not smart, but I definitely didn't plan some of these things, work without me accidentally knowing that it should. And then we also made a smart on and off switch so that when you turn it back on, it'll immediately start back up in the, what's the word? In the format that it was previously in whatever it was previously in, because we always have it turn off when it's up at the top here, which is really good. There are a lot of similarities to my previous design over here. We're still using sequence gear shifts. This one is kind of our main one that like counts, I guess, the amount of times it goes down and up. So the 2, that's that number. And then it's also the one that moves it over. This down and up system will fire a redstone pulse twice, once when it reaches the bottom and once when it comes back to the top. The first redstone pulse is going to go into the sequence gear shift and fire before the await. This is kind of like the start of it. And then we're going to wait for another redstone pulse. Basically, that means when it hits the bottom, start that sequence gear shift, and then when it hits the top, pass by the await section. Then there's a delay of 10 ticks. This is just for my sanity. And then it will move over 8 blocks up to here. Once it's moved 8 blocks, delay just 10 more ticks just because we have repeaters and stuff in the way, and then turn back on the clutch. When the clutch turns back on, we just go down and up again. This system over here, I also yoinked from that. It is basically a counter. You can configure this as much as you want. I've just been throwing in 1 or 2 sandstone just because I've been testing, but let's do 4 just to show. So what's happening here is that you can read comparator outputs out of sequence gear shifts. They coincide with what step you're on. So right now we're stuck at step 1 because we're waiting for the second kind of one of these boys instructions. So until we get that, we're stuck on this. As soon as this comes back up, then these will both bump to 2. And when that happens, it'll power the dropper once. This will put an item in the hopper. And once all 4 items are out of the hopper, this comparator will depower, powering this torch, powering this redstone link, which then sends itself over to a couple of different places. The first one is going to be this one with a 6-second delay, just because we are still running, I think, this sequence gear shift. So we need a bit of a delay. And then we start the one that pulls it all the way back and then moves it over. And then it also powers this piston area under here, which depowers this piston. The reason we're doing this is because the observer on the machine itself is still going to be powering and moving and doing a bunch of stuff, and we do not want to power this sequence gear shift while this is moving back and forth. We want to wait until this is fully done and this thing can go just straight down. So while this is running, let's go over kind of what exactly it's doing. So that was just its backtracking sequence. You should now see in a second here. We do need to like come back a really long way, so I just kind of baked that in. Then we go 8 blocks over, straight back down. The kind of main thing that I didn't even consider that just worked out for me somehow magically. In order to restart the system, it's going to be really difficult to. Like, how do you go from here being powered and like the system's reset, good work, to like depowering the clutch, doing all that stuff, making sure this goes straight down? I don't know how you would do it. I did it accidentally. Thankfully, the kind of rotation, the default rotation, makes these rope pulleys go down straight away. And if we actually increase the number of items in here, we have to wait until this gets refilled. But if we increase the number of items in here to like 7, we should see that this moves over 7 times, or 56 blocks in total, because 7 times 8, 56. So let's hope that actually happens. I've just been coming down here using bedrock for all of these because we are just burning resources and causing a bunch of lag. So I'm hoping that everything still works. We move over as expected, and I'm actually going to increase the length over here just a smidge so that we move over another 8 blocks and make sure everything's working. The next thing we're going to do after this is just throw in a volt, glue it together, kind of like the initial system over here where we have a bunch of trapdoors in the center and just a volt, trapdoors with drills on top so that we can get in and out of obsidian gen or other cobblestone gen situations, and then just send it all the way down to bedrock. The reason for this is because I'm almost certain these solo 2 redstone link relays are not going to be enough to bring it all the way to bedrock, which I think is y negative 63, to whatever this y level is, 106. I'm pretty sure it's too far out of the range of the standard redstone links. So we should be kind of close to finishing this up. We're actually just over halfway, and we could go a lot further on this, but I'm not going to. I'm actually going to decrease the number of these just back down to 1 so that hopefully we don't dig into the water, but I bet we will. So that last item has gone. We're backing up, which is good, and we should move 8 blocks over here, and then that means this system is almost 100% working, at least for the basic functionality. Uh-oh. Totally forgot to do this bedrock. So now we should see this come up and stop if my on and off switch works correctly. It doesn't. Okay. We have the new system set up. I needed to somehow, I don't know if this is going to work, put the rope pulley, but be able to drill up still. Unless, does the rope pulley prevent water? Because then we don't need upward drills. How do I test this? So if we just place a water bucket down. Oh, okay, I didn't need to do all of this. We could just leave an empty gap on that corner because there's no chance that any blocks can spawn on top of it. So now we are fully back to set up. Everything should be glued together properly and working. Now all we have to do is just send it off and obviously remove any of the bedrock that's here because we do want to go all the way down to bedrock. And then I am really hoping that once we get down to the bottom, it will be able to come back up because that is going to be the biggest challenge. Let's reduce all the numbers in here to just 1 because we just want it to go down and up once. So we are sending it off. Let's see once it gets to the bottom that it will actually come back up. So while it's going down, there's no real reason to watch it other than to just have fun. But we will see that this observer will power once we get to the bottom, but let me fly. Oh, this is a challenge. But I'm going to stay up here to see if either of these fire because honestly, we only really care about this one. But if we can't reach the bottom, we'll have to figure out a way to do kind of like a middleman thing with this redstone link. And it might be as stupid as just putting one in the ground, but I don't know how we would move it with the contraption. So I'm honestly just kind of hoping this will work and I won't have to deal with it. So we should be at the bottom any second now. We are below the point where caves are. Yes! Oh, thank goodness that is able to reach. Okay, so we can check this at further points in the world to see if we're screwed no matter what. But for the moment, this looks pretty good. We do need to figure out why this ran out of space. Oh, excuse you. Why this ran out of space. Because it honestly shouldn't have. And it looks like the volts are a little bit broken, but that's okay. I'm so glad this thing works. Now we need to get back to item transport. And I'm not going to do the thing we did on the original where we put windmills inside the contraption itself because they stopped every single time it got back up to the bottom or the top. So that's not helpful. What I am going to try to do is connect up one of these, probably this spinny thing, to power, because then no matter what inside of this thing, we are going to be able to power it, and maybe we just put a gearbox here and then connect it up with the rest of the build. And we will need to change some of these timings and potentially add a wait timer for just to wait for redstone in order for this to work. I suspect we will only have to do it on this one, potentially just right after this delay. But I was actually wrong. We now have a setup system here, and I'm using something that I totally forgot about when trying to build this first machine. Over here, I tried to use belts and a funnel to get items out of this vault onto kind of the main belt system that we have going here. And I completely forgot about when this is a contraption, we can use a portable storage interface anywhere on the contraption to be able to get items out of it, which is what we're doing over here. The benefit of this is, number one, we can basically have wireless item transport. We don't need moving belts and stuff in here for that to work. We don't need to stop anything or make anything keep going. Since when this portable storage interface connects up with this one and they have items to drop, it doesn't turn on any of the observers or power anything. It is just kind of like you're waiting and nothing's happening. None of the logic needed to change and everything still works. Everything else about this is pretty much the same. We also have added in some belts that go all the way along here so that when the portable storage interface comes back up and connects up with the one that isn't moving, it can drop items out the entire way along here. Oh, I didn't consider that this is going to come over this way and might run into this smooth stone. I'm not sure what the rules are with glue and stuff, but we definitely can't have these blocks here, which I guess is good to check now. What I think I'm going to do is instead of this, we're just going to place 2 blocks here and connect it with glue. So now this is all connected and it should move along with the entire volt mini box over. And then we also have another rail here that is constantly moving that has a very similar vibe. We don't need that block anymore. Very similar vibe to this one, but this one doesn't need to move. And we need shafts shafts all the way along it because we are powering this belt here with the power coming from this belt. And since we're moving 8 blocks over, I could do it every 8 blocks, but a shaft on every one is a little bit easier in case it messes up and only moves over 6 blocks or moves over 9 somehow. I don't know. But we just have shafts all along here so it can accurately power this belt all the way along. I think we are ready to test this. I am so scared because if we do this and this works, the only thing we'll have to do after this is item collection and dealing with. And honestly, I don't know how long these redstone links are. I am very worried that the redstone links here that are meant as a relay from this mining machine, this redstone link that goes all the way down to the main area, is not going to be enough. So I might throw on, just right before we go here, another set of redstone links that doesn't move along this way. And I'm actually going to do it on this block here so that we don't run into any issues. Well, I think we're ready to test it. Backups have been made, bedrock has been removed, and I'm so scared. I need to put in a few more items into here, actually. Let's just test to see how far along this is. It is almost exactly 100 blocks. That is crazy. So if we do 14 blocks, that should be 1 over the amount that we need. Since 12 is 96, if we're moving over by 8. 13 should be more than 100, but I am just making sure and double checking. I want this to be kind of like a worst case scenario mining area. I want to see and hope that when we mine the river, we're going to get a bunch of lava underneath. We're going to get a bunch of either cobble gen or obsidian gen in the midst of this. And I'm hoping that we get things that would normally stop it, but don't in this scenario. And Exhibit A forgot to break and replace those blocks. So now let's get up a third-person time lapse to hopefully dig a, probably 100 by 100 hole. And I don't know the exact distance of redstone links. I've heard that it's 90 blocks. It's obviously not the case since we can go down all the way to bedrock. And I've also heard that it's 254. And if that's the case, we could get a 254 by 254 cube of just straight mining. And that would be awesome. But let's start this. And while we mine out this entire area, I just want to talk about a couple of changes that I made while this was running, because we did run into quite a few issues. We got through it on kind of the first 2 passes, which is really good news. But the main thing was that item vaults, for some reason, and I still don't know why, item vaults were a little bit broken. Every time it went down, it thought it used all the items, and like the portable storage interfaces got rid of every item. As soon as it started mining more, it automatically like recreated 5,000 cobblestone or dirt or whatever else. And it was really strange, replacing everything with barrels and having quite a few more barrels. Fixed the issue. And then we had another issue that I forgot to fully consider with the counter. So we have a locked hopper that we unlock for 3 or so seconds, but hopper speed is 2.5 items per second. And if we go above like 10 or 15, we won't bring all of the items back from the hopper to the dropper. So we just had to extend that timer, and then we got to reach the end. But that's the end of the time lapse. So let's go back to the world. And now that we're back in the world, the miner is done, and look at this hole that it has made. Obviously the water is still there, and if you're going to be digging a big hole, it's probably best if you use sponges and stuff to clean up the water as it's digging. But this whole thing took 14 hours. That time lapse was 14 hours long, which doesn't seem like a lot, but when you're digging down to bedrock and you're getting all of the items from it, it's kind of hard for that to be any faster. Obviously, you can use TNT. TNT will be way faster, but the items that you get are crazy. 200,000 cobble, almost 500,000 deep slate, 512 diamonds, 5,000 lapis, and probably the most important one for the create mod folks, 30,000 copper ore. And then we also have just a standard 2,500 zinc and also 5,000 iron. It obviously isn't the best for like a general iron farm or a general copper farm or a general gold farm or anything like that. It actually might not be bad for gold, but it is really good at quarry mining, digging out a big space. If you want to do a mob farm at the lowest point in the world, this is a great way to do it, to get all the items. It's really easy to set up now with schematics as well. It's going to be like simple. And I think most importantly, it is just a cool idea. And I don't think anyone has done this. I haven't seen YouTube videos of this exact thing happening. Obviously quarries exist, but I haven't seen one this good. So hopefully it is the best one on YouTube, but I guess we'll see. And I know I said I was going to do an item storage system. I don't think we do that. I was initially thinking, oh, we're going to get so much cobblestone, we might as well crush it all into iron to get iron and stuff. 250,000 cobble is like basically 2 hours of running an iron farm that I have made that takes way less time, and then you can do more of it. Like there's no point in this being an iron farm. It might not even be worth keeping any of these items except for maybe the copper, since that's usually not a renewable source in the create mod. And then obviously redstone is useful. The redstone farms are very difficult to fully automate in the base create mod, and same with gold, it's kind of tough to get that. But like otherwise, I don't really think it's worth setting up a whole system for this. But I think let's go back to our initial criteria, because it has been a week fully of running this, testing this. Where are my signs? So let's go back and see what we have done. We'll not get stuck with obsidian gen. We mined a 100 by 100 perimeter. No obsidian gen, no cobble, nothing blocking it. It's fast. Okay, it took 14 hours. But if you were to mine that by hand, I think it would genuinely take you 600 days. So I would consider it fast, yes. Item collection and storage, we have some drawers. That counts. I don't think this super counts. So I am going to put no. And easy to understand, I wrote never mind here when I was doing this. Honestly, I think we maybe period, question mark, exclamation. Maybe it might be if you're really smart. Maybe infinitely scalable. Maybe it might be. It's technically infinitely scalable. I wouldn't do that though, because we're gonna get into redstone relay issues, and I don't know how to do that, but kind of technically it is pretty infinitely scalable. But that is going to do it for this video. We completed basically all of our criteria. There's so many initial versions of this that stem into bigger versions that stem into our working one, and it's honestly not crazy complicated. I know it looks like a lot, but compared to that thing that didn't even work really, so easy to understand, so reasonable. I'm not going to include the schematic for this in this video, but I will have a tutorial, not a block by, maybe a block by, I don't know. I might have a tutorial on my channel coming next week. So if you're excited for that, please leave a comment, let me know. But I hope you enjoyed kind of my thought process of genuinely, I think the hardest thing that I've ever worked on in the Create mod. There were so many variables, so many things that went wrong and can go wrong, and so much time that it took for testing. I mean, just this took 14 hours. This is not a gigantic area, and this took 14 hours. And I've tried so many times before this. There's one there. There's probably like 5 or 6 more way over there before this video even started of this just not working. And I'm so glad that it finally worked. This is easily the hardest project I've ever done. Even though the other crazy contraptions that I made, this one is by far the most complicated for everything to work exactly as I wanted it to. So thank you all so much for watching. Thank you for tuning in. If you liked it, be sure to like. If you're new here and you watch the whole thing, subscribe. I'm so funny and you're gonna laugh every time you watch a video, so you might as well subscribe. But that's all. I will see you all next time. Peace.